December 18, 2023. A federal judge in Manhattan looked across the courtroom at a man who, 3 years earlier, had been worth more than the entire economic output of some small nations. Trevor Milton stood motionless. The math was brutal. 1 count of securities fraud, 2 counts of wire fraud, $168 million in restitution, and 4 years in federal prison. His company, Nikola Corporation, had peaked at a valuation of $34 billion, more than Ford, and it had never sold a single truck. The vehicle that was supposed to change the world couldn't move under its own power. The revolutionary battery was purchased from a company that was itself a scam. The hydrogen production Milton bragged about didn't exist, not a single molecule. This is the story of how one man turned confidence into currency and how the entire system, investors, regulators, Fortune 500 partners, let him do it. It begins, as these stories often do, with someone who genuinely wanted to matter. Empire building. Trevor Milton was born in 1982 in Layton, Utah. His mother died of cancer when he was 14. He and 4 siblings watched her deteriorate while their father worked 4 hours away. He emerged from that childhood with something close to ferocity. He needed to succeed, and he needed people to see it. After a Mormon missionary trip to Brazil and 1 semester of college, Milton launched a security alarm company. He sold it for $300,000. The buyer later claimed Milton had wildly overpromised the business. A partner alleged Milton cheated him out of $50,000. The pattern was already fully formed. It just hadn't found the right stage. In 2009, Milton launched D-Hybrid to convert diesel engines to compressed natural gas. He convinced Swift Transportation to invest $2 million. A 2012 lawsuit revealed only 5 of 10 promised trucks were delivered. The engines barely worked, and some of that money went to personal expenses. When it collapsed, Milton created a legally separate company with his father, D-Hybrid Systems, using a deliberately similar name. They sold it to Worthington Industries for $16 million. In private recordings, Milton admitted the engine units were falling off trucks, shearing through frames, nearly causing fatalities. None of this reached the buyer in time. By 2014, Milton was ready for something bigger. Fraud mechanism explained clearly. The engine of Milton's fraud was a credibility carousel. Make a spectacular claim. Use it to attract a credible partner. Use that partner's name to attract investors. Use investor capital to attract more partners. Each rotation adds legitimacy. Each revolution moves further from the question nobody has answered. Does the product actually work? In May 2016, Milton announced the Nikola One, a hydrogen semi-truck capable of 1,000 miles on a single fill-up. The trillion-dollar trucking industry took notice, but by August, the truck was a bare frame on wheels. Workers were running to hardware stores for parts. Then, without warning, the company pivoted from natural gas to hydrogen fuel cells. Employees were blindsided. At the December 2016 reveal, Milton was emotional on stage, calling the truck fully functioning. Bloomberg later reported it was inoperable. No motor, no gears, no fuel cell. It was powered by a cord plugged into the stage floor. The touchscreens were the only thing that worked. But as a sales tool, it was perfect. Bosch signed on. Arizona's governor offered to host their headquarters. Anheuser-Busch pre-ordered 800 trucks. When skeptics pressed for proof, Nikola released a video titled Nikola One in Motion. A former employee later revealed the truck had been towed to the top of a hill and released. The door was taped shut so it wouldn't fly open. Everyone involved signed NDAs. Milton then announced a battery with 4 times the energy density of lithium-ion. acquired through a company called ZapGo for $56 million. ZapGo's technology was vaporware. Its head, Charles Resnick, had just been indicted for defrauding NASA. He pleaded guilty in early 2020. Milton knew this and continued promoting the battery on Twitter as though he'd personally seen it perform. Meanwhile, Nikola's director of hydrogen production was Milton's brother, a former concrete subcontractor, the head of infrastructure development responsible for 700 planned hydrogen stations, had previously managed a golf club. Milton distributed over $110 million in company stock to family members. Red flags and system failure. The question isn't how Milton did it, it's why nobody stopped him. Nikola had no revenue, no delivered product, no independent verification of its technology, and leadership with no relevant credentials. Cathie Wood of ARK Invest publicly noted hydrogen costs 3 times more than electric per mile. Milton claimed Nikola produced hydrogen at $3 per kilogram, 81% cheaper than anyone on Earth. When pressed, he admitted the company produced no hydrogen at all. That admission should have ended things. Instead, BP pledged to help build Nikola's hydrogen network. General Motors agreed to a $2 billion partnership and an 11% equity stake to manufacture the Nikola Badger, a pickup truck that existed only as a digital rendering. Did GM perform no due diligence? Or was the deal structure, where Nikola was paying GM hundreds of millions, so favorable that it didn't matter whether the company was real? On June 4, 2020, Nikola went public through a SPAC merger with Vector YQ. Unlike a traditional IPO, a SPAC requires far less disclosure. Within 1 week, Nikola's market cap surpassed Ford, over $30 billion. Ford had sold 5.5 million vehicles the prior year. Nikola had sold nothing. The market was primed for it. Near zero interest rates, stimulus money flooding brokerage accounts, retail investors buying narratives, not balance sheets, and the regulatory architecture, built on the assumption that markets self-correct, was simply outpaced by the speed of capital and hype. Collapse. On September 10, 2020, 2 days after the GM deal, short-selling firm Hindenburg Research published a devastating report calling Nikola an intricate fraud. They presented recorded phone calls, text messages, emails, and photographs documenting dozens of lies. They exposed the Hill Roll video, the inoperable prototype, the ZapGo acquisition, and the family appointments. Milton promised a full rebuttal. Instead, he deleted his social media and disappeared. On September 21st, he resigned. The stock dropped 40%. Then came sexual assault allegations from his own cousin. Banks liquidated their holdings. Subpoenas piled up. GM quietly scrapped the Badger and dropped its equity stake. In July 2021, a federal grand jury indicted Milton on 3 counts. In October 2022, a jury convicted him. In December 2023, the sentence came down: 4 years, $1 million fine, $168 million in restitution. Nikola staggered on, paid a $125 million SEC settlement, and shipped a small number of trucks. But in February 2025, it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and was delisted from NASDAQ. By year's end, its workforce had shrunk to 1 person, a liquidating trustee. Total losses exceeded $556 million. Then, in March 2025, President Trump granted Milton a full and unconditional pardon. Milton publicly confirmed he had pardon erased the conviction before that number was finalized. Today, Milton runs Cyberjet aircraft in Utah. He is free. Psychological autopsy. It would be satisfying to call Milton a simple grifter, but the reality is more unsettling. His emotional displays suggest someone who had crossed a line most entrepreneurs approach but pull back from. The line between aspiration and fabrication. Startup culture normalizes selling the future. Fake it until you make it isn't a criticism in that world, it's strategy. But when the truck on stage is plugged into the wall and you call it fully functioning, you've passed the threshold. When the video shows gravity and you present it as propulsion, you've passed it again. Each lie required a larger one to sustain it. Each partnership raised the stakes. At some point, the cost of confession exceeded the cost of continuation, and the only move within the distorted logic of the fraud was to keep going. The boy who lost his mother at 14 grew into a man for whom the appearance of success became indistinguishable from success itself. Reflective ending. People ask how sophisticated investors, major corporations, and regulators all missed what one short-selling firm exposed in a single report. The answer isn't that they were stupid. The system isn't designed to detect confident liars who understand what institutions want to hear. Milton presented partner logos as proof of legitimacy. Each institution, looking at the others, assumed someone else had done the verification. This is the architecture of modern trust. It runs on assumption and delegation. Nikola proved it has a fatal vulnerability. Anyone willing to build the appearance of substance faster than the system can verify it can exploit the gap. Nikola Corporation today has one employee, a trustee closing the books. Trevor Milton is free and running a new company. The carousel has stopped. But the infrastructure that let it spin, the SPAC shortcuts, the partnership signaling, the retail euphoria, the regulatory lag, remains exactly as it was. The question isn't whether it will happen again. It's whether anyone will recognize it in time when it does.